Alright, so this is the week 8 test key for Algebra 2 trigonometry. So the first question says Max solves a quadratic equation by completing the square. He shows this correct step. What are the solutions? So all the hard work here has actually been done for us. All we have to do at this point is solve for x. So I'm going to square root both sides of the equation, and that'll get me x plus 2 equals the positive and negative square root of negative 9. So I know that the square root of negative 9 is going to be 3i. So I can rewrite this as x plus 2 equals the positive and negative 3i. So now I just subtract 2 from both sides, and x is going to be equal to negative 2 plus or minus 3i. So that is going to be answer choice 2. Alright, number 2. What is the range? So range is going to be my y values. So I need to start from the bottom, and I see I've got an arrow, so it's going to go from negative infinity all the way up to the y max. Looks like it is 0. So I can immediately eliminate 1 and 2 because they have x in them. That's stupid. So I know that y has to be less than or equal to 0. That is answer choice number 3. Alright, so first I'm going to set this one up. 2x minus 1 equals 5 and 2x minus 1 equals negative 5. And I'm doing this because I have absolute value bars around the 2x minus 1. So now I just solve. I'm going to add 1 to both sides. And I get 2x equals 6, x equals 3. That's one solution. Add 1 to both sides. 2x equals negative 4, x equals negative 2. So I can immediately eliminate answers 3 and 4 because they're negative 3 and 3, and here I have 3 and negative 2. So now I need to figure out where I'm going to shade, inside or outside, so I'm going to test the point 0, test point, and I'm testing a point that's in between, so I know if I need to shade inside if this comes up true. So I'm going to say 2 times 0 minus 1, absolute value, is greater than 5. So this is going to be the absolute value of negative 1, or just 1, is greater than 5. This is false, so I'm going to be shading outside. Answer choice 1. Alright, we're doing it again. So 3x minus 2 equals 16, and 3x minus 2 equals negative 16. 3x equals 18. X equals 6. That's one solution. And then 3x equals negative 14. That's because I did plus 2 to both sides. And then x is going to be equal to negative 14 divided by 3. I can't simplify that any further. So I know my solutions are going to be positive 6 and negative 14 over 3. Answer choice 1. Alright, number 5, domain and range. So because this is in the denominator, I know it cannot equal 0. So this must be greater than, oops, pops up. So this must be greater than 0. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and set it up. So x minus 4 has to be greater than 0. So x has to be greater than 4. I just added 4 to both sides there. So x has to be greater than 4, answer choice 1. If x were equal to 4, then we would have a 0 in the denominator, and we would get stuck. Alright, so my first step here is I have got to get the absolute value by itself. So we're going to go ahead and divide both sides by negative 3, divided by negative 3. So now I can rewrite this as 6 minus x is greater than 5. Okay. So now I can go ahead and set this up. So 6 minus x is equal to 5, and 6 minus x is equal to negative 5. Alright, so negative x is equal to negative 1, x is equal to 1. That's going to be one of my solutions. And my other solution, subtract 6 from both sides, negative x equals negative 11, x equals 11. Alright, so 1 and 11 are my answers. Now I just need to know if I'm shading inside or outside. So let's go ahead, I'll draw it here. I've got an 11, I've got a 1. Okay, like that. I need to test a point in between. So I'll test the point 2. So negative 3, 6 minus 2 is greater than negative, or is less than negative 15. Let's check that. Alright, so this is a negative 3, 6 minus 2. So this is going to be 4, so negative 3 times 4 is less than negative 15. Negative 12 is less than negative 15. This is false. So shade out. Alright, so I'm going to be shading here and here, which means that it's going to be answer choice number 1. X has to be less than 1, or, because outside is or, X is greater than 11. Okay. 1 to 1 and on to. Alright, so the key here is that we have to use all of the X and Y values for it to be onto. So this is going to be not onto, because there's a 1 that's not being used. And then I need to check, everything else looks like it's onto, but some of these aren't 1 to 1. For instance, this is not 1 to 1, and answer choice 3 is not 1 to 1, so these are not 1 to 1. 1 to 1, because the H and the M are both mapping up onto the 2, which means that answer choice 2, you can see the arrow just connects one X to one Y, one X to one Y, one X to one Y. This is 1 to 1 and onto. Alright, answer choice 8, we're doing it again. So 6x minus 7 equals 5. 6x minus 7 equals negative 5. 6x equals 12. 6x equals 2. Alright, so here x is going to be equal to 12 divided by 6, or 2, and here x is going to be equal to 2/6, or 1/3. Alright, so I've got 1/3 and 2, so I can eliminate these two answers. Those are stupid because we see negative 2 and negative 1/3. Alright, so I'm going to shade now. I need to shade inside or outside, so I'm going to test a point in between. I'll test the point 1. Right, so let's see what I got here. So I've got 6 times 1 minus 7. Absolute value is less than or equal to 5. So this would just be, well, negative 1. So that would be 1 is less than or equal to 5. This is true. So I'm going to shade inside. So yet again, my answer choice is going to be 1, shading inside. Alright, number 9. Alright, so this one I've got to go ahead and I have got to factor this. So let's see, my B goes on the bottom, negative 3, my A times C, negative 28 goes on top. Alright, so I need to figure out something that adds to negative 3, multiplies to negative 28. So, okay, 7 and 4, oops, alright, 7 is going to be negative, 4 is going to be positive, so my factors are then x minus 7, right, and x plus 4, which means that if I'm going to make my number line here, my solutions are going to be 7, so x equals 7 and negative 4, so I've got a negative 4 here, and I've got a 7 here. These are going to be closed circles because we've got an or equal to sign. And then again, I just need to know, am I shading inside or am I shading outside? So I'm going to test the point 0. So 0 squared minus 3 times 0 minus 28 is greater than or equal to 0. So this is easy. Negative 28, everything else just cancels, goes away, is greater than or equal to 0. This is false. Shade out. So I'm going to shading over here and over here, which means that my answer choice is actually, again, x has to be greater than 7 or x has to be less than negative 4. So again, I've got answer choice 1. As you guys are doing this test, you'll probably be like, I must have made a mistake. There have been so many answer choice 1s in a row. Well, you didn't. Alright, we're doing it again. So I've got a negative 1 and a negative 12 this time. My b is negative 1. a times c is negative 12. So let's go ahead and think about this one. Our factors are going to be negative 4 and 3. So I've got x minus 4, x plus 3. It's less than 0. So solutions are x is going to be equal to 4 and negative 3. So if I'm going to draw my number line, I've got a negative 3, I've got a 4, negative 3. Test the point 0. So 0 squared minus 0 minus 12 is less than 0. So I've got negative 12 is, negative 12 is less than 0. This is true, so I'm going to shade in. So that means that, and then of course I have open circles because there's no equal to sign here. So that looks like my answer choice is going to be answer choice number 2. All these other ones I'm either shading wrong or it has the wrong x values. Alright, number 11. I'm almost getting tired of doing these now. So y plus 8 equals 3. Y plus 8 equals negative 3. Anytime you have these absolute values, you got to set it equal to whatever's on the right, positive and negative. So y is going to be equal to negative 5 here, and y is going to be equal to negative 11 over here. Now I'm going to test a point in between. Sadly, I actually can't use 0 this time if I want to test a point in between. So let's pick, say, negative 6. So the absolute value of negative 6 plus 8 and 3. So negative 6 plus 8 is going to be 2. It's greater than 3. False. Shade out. Alright, so that means that I'm going to have y is going to be greater than negative 5, or less than negative 11. Good. Answer choice 1. Alright, so now I get to factor this to find the solution. So I'm going to factor out an x. So I have x squared plus x minus 2. Alright. And then I can factor again. So numbers that add to 1 multiply to negative 2 would be 2 and negative 1. So then this is going to become x minus 1, x plus 2 equals 0, which means that my solutions are going to be 0, because if this x is a 0, this whole thing becomes a 0. 1, because if I plug a 0 in here, this becomes a 0. And negative 2. So 0, 1, and negative 2 are my solutions to this problem. 12 is answer choice 2. Alright, so first I'm taking h and I'm plugging it into g. So at first I've got to do, h of negative 8. And so that's going to be equal to 1/2 of negative 8 minus 2. Alright, so that's going to be equal to half of negative 8 is negative 4 minus 2 is negative 6. H of negative 8 is equal to negative 6. And then I'm going to have to do g of negative 6. So half of negative 6 plus 8. So half of negative 6 is negative 3 plus 8 equals 5. So 13, my answer choice is 3. Well, the answer choice is number 3, which is 5. Okay. Alright, so now I noticed that these are both perfect squares, I believe. Is that right? Oh no, never mind. 2 is not a perfect square. So I'm actually going to use the square root property to factor this one. So x squared has to be greater than 2, because I've just added 2 to both sides. So then I square root both of these, so x is going to be greater than positive and negative square root of 2. Alright, so those are going to be my 2 solutions. So then I just want to test a point in between. I'll pick 0. So 0 squared minus 2 is greater than 0. Negative 2 is greater than 0. False. Shade out. Which means that answer choice 4, because it's got negative 2, square root of negative 2, and negative square root of 2, and square root of 2, and we're shading out. So answer choice 4 is correct. These other ones are not. Alright, 15. So whenever I see a problem, so I actually just made a quick mistake, so I just had to go back. I just wrote something wrong. So I'm about to do this problem again. So I've got 2/5 x minus 3 over 4 y squared, and then its conjugate, 2/5 x plus 3 over 4 y squared. So sorry, 2/5 x plus 3 over 4 y squared. Alright, so this is going to be 4/25 x squared. This is going to become negative 6/20 xy squared. This is going to be positive 6/20 xy squared. And then finally we are going to have a negative 9/16 y to the fourth. So I'm going to cancel this one here and this one here, actually cancel out because they're the same. So then I have 4/25 x squared minus 9/16 y to the fourth. So answer choice 1 again.